Hey folks, welcome back to another Pawn Masters video, and today I thought we'd talk a bit about the blue sync buff and what that potentially entails, because it does seem like DNA is rather open to buffing units. I mean, it's not the first time that a unit has got, buffed in the game, right? If you guys remember Eevee situation, although that was more of a mistake on their part, so they kind of had to buff Eevee, which is great. Worked out really great for Eevee, and Eevee's really good right now. So yeah, for those of you who did miss it, I did go over the buffs on blue in a separate video. So basically he's getting a lot of heals, which is fantastic. Passive heals, among some other stuff. He had like a special attack plus 10 as well, which is kind of relevant, but there's some other good stuff, right? So yeah, I thought today we'd go over some other synchrons that might maybe need some help as well, right? It's not just blue. And I'm probably just gonna highlight two of these that, and it's not like these units are bad per se, especially one of the two that I'm going to talk about, but their synchrons definitely could help, right? And I'm not gonna talk about like say Charizard, because Charizard's synchro is terrible, but like he's a very good unit without the synchro, right? At base he's really nice, or someone else like that, right? So yeah, let's get into this. The first one we're going to talk about is Alligator. Alligator is sad. So Alligator is very sad. The really, like, here's the thing, when you compare Alligator to like say Ethan, who also got the synchro expanded at the same time, you can sort of see why Alligator's synchro isn't as great as expand, right? Because Ethan has a niche, right? Once you expand Ethan's synchro, he went from very bad to the best fire type AoE damage dealer in the game, right? In terms of the highest damage, right? He has the highest damage fire type AoE in the game. I think might be like second or third highest like AoE overall in the game, right? So Ethan turned from like something that people joke about as a striker to something that has a niche that works very well. And in that same vein, a lot of the other fire type strikers, right? Hilda is a fantastic fire type sync nuker, right? And Alligator, when you look at it, it just doesn't do anything particularly well, right? It's a water type, and what does it do? It does physical damage and has a physical sync nuke, right? And if you compare those to other physical, water strikers, physical, sync nukers, if you compare it to like sync nukers overall, right? There's Barry, but if you specifically narrow it down to like water type sync nukers, there's also Sharpedo there as well, right? You got Haymaker over here. Sharpedo has inertia with what's it called, like double down or something, right? So and Sharpedo has much better base attack. Like the big thing with Alligator is that like, and this is the reason why his sync nuke is not as good as people think, in my opinion, because sync nuke, you're basically basing it off two things. One is your sync move power, which Alligator does have a lot of, and the other is your base, physical attack stat for Haymaker, right? And this physical attack stat is terrible. It's even worse than Ethan, right? The reason why he hits, or is it a she? I don't even know. Can you tell over here? The reason why Alligator hits relatively hard is because Mega Kick's BP is very high, right? Mega Kick BP at 1 out of 5 is 120, or actually no, 167, right? With obviously drawback being very low accuracy. So Alligator's sync nuke is not that good in comparison to like Sharpedo's, right? Even though Sharpedo is a mega, the sync move base damage is lower, but do keep in mind Sharpedo also has in the passive, right? In the passive, Sharpedo also has double down 5, which makes the sync move damage almost as high as what Alligator's is, and Sharpedo also has extra sync move damage, grid power ups, and more importantly, Sharpedo's physical attack is like almost 100 times higher, right? When you mega, it's right, it's not 100 times, 100 points higher, right? So when you look at the niche of a physical water type Sync Nuker, Alligator does not have it. And as a physical striker, or physical water type striker, Sharpedo is also here as well. So it's just that Alligator really does not have any, and Alligator needs like a lot of support to begin with, right? Because Alligator, again, if you are trying to do Mega Kick, you do have the issue of filling up that accuracy problem, right? And if you're wondering, oh, you could pair Clefairy with it, but Clefairy doesn't really, you can't maximize Alligator's potential with Clefairy. It's much better if you just use, say, Sabrina Alakazam, even though she doesn't give you physical attack, but she does give you crit, because the other issue that Alligator runs into is Alligator does not have crit buffs. He had, Alligator has like 2 guaranteed crits, which you do have NPRs on Pick Up the Pace. That definitely helps, but that just turns into a cycle of Pick Up the Pace, Mega Kick, Pick Up the Pace, Mega Kick. So you're only outputting 1 to 2 Mega Kicks per sync move cycle, which is, even though Mega Kick does a lot of damage per hit, you're just not doing that much damage, per however many turns you have, right? So the overall damage is vastly undercut because of that. And the other reason why you can't just pair Clefairy with another crit buffer is that if you want to maximize Alligator's damage, you have to run Pelipper or Tech Blastoise for the rain, right? Because that's an extra 50% damage in rain, which you do not want to miss out either, right? Especially, since Alligator is already a bit suspect over there. So like Alligator is just Alligator is just very, very hard to use at base, and the Synchro just does not help it. Like the Synchro tried to give it a Sync Nuke, it's just not as good as Sharpedo, and then if for Mega Kick, like it really didn't give it anything for Mega Kick, right? Give it like a few power ups, accuracy +5, right? A few more over here. Like accuracy +10 is like nothing, right? It's like bumps it from 75 to 85, right? Which again, 85 accuracy is still very, very bad. And didn't get any power ups other than Power Reserve 2, which is again terrible. But I guess there's an argument to be made that Alligator does have endurance, so there's that, right? As for some other stuff, First Aid 4, like the kit just does not work. It's just Alligator just gets outclassed by like every other water striker, honestly. Alligator might be the worst overall water type striker that has grid right now, right? Unfortunately, like Barry does a lot of damage with Sync Nuke. Misty is one of the highest damage dealers in the game for some reason. She is. It is crazy, but she actually is. Sharpedo is basically Alligator but better, right? Those are your main ones. And Alligator just doesn't really have a role, which is a bit of an issue. Palkia too, right? Palkia is also great there as well, although Palkia's Sync Move not so much. It's Dragon type Sync Move. Yeah, Alligator just needs help. Alligator really, really needs help. Alligator, honestly, like stuff like dynamic entry, this is only one shirt. Like I don't understand. Like it's not like you could dynamic entry and then you immediately use a move and then you're fine, right? Like the reason why dynamic entry works on Serena is because you could dynamic entry, put the whole team to sleep, and then you get some time to buff your own accuracy. Alligator is not in that situation. Like you could completely get rid of dynamic entry and give Alligator something else. Like even if it's like more accuracy nodes, then sure, that would be nice, right? But like these accuracy nodes are extremely expensive too. +5 for 8 energy. Like if you want to buff it, like maybe give it like 8 energy for +10 accuracy. How about that? Then you go up to 95% accuracy, right? So your Mega Kick is much more usable for one, and like yeah, like Alligator just does not have a niche, unfortunately. Like okay, it has like decent speed, but then again, if you're comparing it to Sharpedo has way more speed. Like okay. Alligator's defenses are even weaker than Sharpedo's, right? If I remember correctly. What are Sharpedo's defenses? yeah, Sharpedo has even better defenses than Fraligator. Fraligator literally does not have anything. Um, okay, Fraligator just, like, does more damage per move, but then again, we do run into the issue that we were talking about earlier. It's, yeah, Fraligator needs help, man. Fraligator really, really needs help. It would be nice if they rework their its sync grid a bit. Maybe, instead of giving it like if you want to make it a good sync nuker, you can make it not that great of a mega kicker and just completely just make it a really, really good physical sync nuker. You could give it inertia as well. Inertia plus haymaker, that's going to do a lot of damage, right? Or give it like double down 3, 4 maybe even, right? Or critical strike 2 or whatever, that also helps with your sync move damage. Or some kind of move that self buffs his crit as well, right? Critical squad on whatever. Pick up the pace critical squad. You get, guaranteed crit, but then also you'll get +1 crit every time you use it. Or X attack critical squad. Is that a bit too much? I don't know. Fraligator definitely needs help. Like, the kid just does not work out that great, unfortunately. Anyways, moving on. The other one that I do kind of want to talk about is an overall better unit, but also its sync grid is not amazing either. Dragonite. Dragonite's the one we're going to talk about. Few things to begin with. First of all, Dragonite is a far better unit than Fraligator, but if you compare it to, like, its fellow, Pokefair level strikers, right? Cynthia, Steven, Singsu Cynthia, Singsu Red, it falls a bit short, unfortunately. Unfortunately, it does. Like Dragonite's upsides are very, very obvious. Like, dude does a lot of damage on Hyper Beam. But it's just not enough, right? Dragonite's downsides are pretty, unfortunate as well. Like the speed for a 4-gauge move user, right? Not the greatest, unfortunately. And it only has like one move gauge refresh on Hyper Beam. Like, for example, Komodo, right? We can compare these two. Where is it? Komodo, also very low speed, right? Even lower speed than Dragonite. Very low speed, 4-gauge move user. It has 2 Clanging Scales move gauge refreshes. And also, Komodo has self-speed buffs, especially if you pick up High Five 2, then you get +2 speed every time you use your sync. So Komodo, like, in comparison, has like almost no move gauge issues. And there's a +20 speed over here. And Dragonite just, does unfortunately have that issue. And the remedy for Dragonite is obviously to use its trainer move, Now or Never. But Now or Never, not the safest move in the world, because it takes half of your HP away. And you say, oh yeah, you could heal that with Potion. But yeah, why not use Potion for something more, urgent, right? Heal your tanks or whatever. Instead of using, Potion just so you could get more move gauges. You're basically exchanging potions for move gauges. And every time you have to use Now or Never, that means you're one turn of not using Hyper Beam. Right? It's kind of the same thing with Fraligator. If you keep on going, pick up the pace, Mega Kick, pick up the pace, Mega Kick. If you're, Dragonite, if you use Now or Never, probably Potion, and then Hyper Beam, that's like 3 turns for 1 Hyper Beam, right? And sometimes you could get away with 1 in between, so maybe like, 4 turns, 2 Hyper Beams or whatever, but that is an issue. And another thing that I don't really like about Dragonite's grid is, like, they're trying to force us to use its sync move. I couldn't understand where they're going with this. Maybe, in the future he gets a 6-star EX, 6-star EX upgrade, right? You pick up more sync move notes and then it's much better, right? But it's just, at the moment, like, or even when that does come out, like, Dragonite's biggest, upside is that it does a crap load of damage on its Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam is very, very powerful, right? Yeah, it should be the highest. I think it's still the highest base power move in the game. 4-gauge, right? And he has really, really good, special attack as well to boot. And I don't know. These kind of seem like they could have been used better, right? Utilized better. There is one big issue with Dragonite is you can't really add anything to Dragonite, um, because like, if you're saying, oh, put critical strike, well, you can't put critical strike on the dude. The dude does not have crit buffs. If you guys look at Synchros and how they are constructed, they have to sort of make sense somehow with a unit, right? The reason why some units, like the reason why I say Gallade, right? Gallade has a lot of critical strike power-ups, right? He has ramming speed, is because Gallade can increase his own crit and speed on its own, right? Without even using MP. All of Gallade's impressive like that, but yeah, it has to sort of make sense. It has to sort of make sense in terms of the extra damage buffs that they get, right? Haxorus, Confusion Boon, right? That's because Haxorus gets confused. Dragonite just doesn't really have anything to give him room for damage buffs such as a critical strike. However, Dragonite, they could give Dragonite Power Flux based on the fact that Dragonite does have Now or Never, right? Which does increase the move gauge, so that could give them an excuse to add Power Flux, either Power Flux 3, 4, whatever, right? You could slap that on, maybe. Or if they just want to go, oh, you're going to be using Dragonite for just Dragon Weak opponents, then they could give him like maybe super duper effective something, right? Something like that, just to make Dragonite more, give Dragonite a bit more of a niche, right? But like make it more powerful in that specific niche. So that could be something as well. But yeah, overall, okay, maybe you could give Dragonite, like if you really just want to make Dragonite that like 6-star EX sync, nuke or whatever, right? When the time comes, because again, they give him a lot of sync noodles. Maybe you give him like Haymaker because you do have Mass Strength on Dragon Claw or something. It's just that Dragonite, it's really hard to give Dragonite too many attack buffs that really makes, or damage modifiers that really make sense, right? Yeah, like Revenge Boost, like a lot of these just Revenge Boost, Rejuvenate, like usually you do want to sync with other units instead, because you want to use spam Hyper Beam to the extent that you could spam Hyper Beam with a Dragonite, right? Like healthy healing is nice, but that means they're encouraging you to use Now or Never, which again, in general, not that great of a move, unfortunately. All the potion stuff is nice. Natural Remedy, again, why does the striker have Natural Remedy? Like Revenge Boost and Natural Remedy, that means you have to tank with Dragonite, and Dragonite, while being a striker with decent defenses, right, HP is not there. You generally just want to tank with your tanks instead. Just tank with your tanks, and if you're tanking with Dragonite, that further discourages you from using Now or Never, right? So I don't know. Dragonite needs help. I guess he has Burstin, which could maybe, I forgot he has Burstin. Burstin's really bad. But like maybe they could keep Burstin and then use that for an excuse to give him like Critical Strike or whatever, right? And again, the biggest issue with Dragonite isn't per se like his damage. Like his damage is fine. His damage is good. Obviously, it could be better, right? Having more damage is always great for a striker. But yeah, they sort of kind of. It'd be nice if they just address the move gauge issue a bit better without limiting Dragonite's because they do have. It's not like they don't have move gauge. Again, Rejuvenate 6, Revenge Boost 3, but Rejuvenate requires Dragonite to sync, which again, the other thing about Dragonite syncing is Dragonite Hyper Beam special move, right, which is what you're trying to do most of the time, and then your sync move is physical. So like, if you really want your sync move just does not do as much damage as Hyper Beam does, right? Unless you're running both special and physical supports. Maybe if you're running a Clefairy, which Clefairy is, Clefairy would have been decent for Dragonite if Clefairy actually had speed. Dragonite, Clefairy, both speed issues. It's just right. Revenge Boost requires Dragonite to tank, and again, not the best idea to tank with Dragonite, especially if you do run into move gauge issues with Now or Never, right? So anyways, these are the two that I do really think their Syncrets. It would be nice that if they had their Syncrets buffed, just like Singsu Blue did, right? Maybe another one would be like Silvally. It's just that, like, I think I kind of know what they're trying to do with Silvally. Is that it's just a unit for newer players to use to catch up with their strikers if they don't have, different all that many different types of strikers. Like Silvally's Syncret is nice. It's just that Silvally's base kit is kind of suspect, and also it might be hard for them to like buff Silvally without making him like overpowered. But like right now, it's just kind of doesn't really do much, unfortunately. But yeah, those are the two that I kind of want to highlight. Mainly just again Dragonite and Alligator. So yeah. Anyways, that's maybe this one. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video. So we're gonna travel some more Pro Masters content. I'll see you guys in the next one.